welcome to the Knitting Bookworm podcast. My name is Myra, and I'll be your host this afternoon. I am filming from southwestern Connecticut, where I live with my husband Scott and our adorable cat Varen, who you might see. She often makes an appearance on the podcast. Today is March 7th. It's a Wednesday, and it's been, I think, a month since I podcast last. I filmed and edited an episode in that gap, and I realized that my past two episodes, the software I had been using to edit it had caused the sound to lag, so I never uploaded that third episode, or fourth episode, whatever it was, that I had recorded because I knew the sound would be off because of the software that I used. So I am back to my old video editing software. Oh, and there is Varen. So we should have no more technical issues like that. Granted, trying out a new microphone today, so who knows? Alright, enough rambling. You can find me on social media as Myrabethknits just about everywhere. That is my username on Instagram and Ravelry, and you can find me on my blog, myrabethknits.com, where I talk about knitting and pattern designing and all of those things that go along with that. So, announcements. My holly sock pattern is live on Ravelry. Yay! It's been live for about a month, I think. Maybe a little bit longer than that, actually. And I don't think I've podcasted since I published that. So there you go. And today, I think that's all my announcements. I'm sorry if the lighting's a little bit off. It's currently snowing like crazy here. We're supposed to get 8 to 12 inches of snow today, which is just, I mean, of course, perfectly normal for this area and this time of year, but I still don't particularly like the snow. So, anyway, we can move along now to finished objects, which I have one, and they are this pair of Selbu mittens. So the Selbu mittens is a pattern by Eli, who is Skeindeer on Ravelry. It's actually a collection of mittens. I think 5 patterns. This is the original Selbu mitten pattern that she published first. And yeah, so I finished these. The ends are all woven in. I just haven't trimmed them yet because I haven't blocked these. So I'm super excited about these. They're actually not for me. But yeah, so the yarn is Berroco Vintage DK. It's an acrylic wool nylon blend that I really like for gift knitting just because it's so hardy, but it's also soft. It's not super scratchy like, I don't know, acrylic or something like that. But you can also wash it, which is always good for gifts. So yeah, these still definitely need to be blocked. I'm not sure if you can tell they're showing up a lot less bumpy on camera. But yeah, I'm really excited about these. So it was a great pattern. It was super easy to follow, super well laid out. I just loved it. If you're looking for a colorwork mitten pattern, I don't want to say simple because obviously the motifs are very detailed, but none of the skills are very hard, none of the floats are very long. So if you're a beginner to color work, this is a good pattern to check out. And Ellie's patterns are great. She's just so thorough in her instructions, and they're super easy to follow. So that's my one finished object. I also finished a couple pairs of socks. in that little gap between now and the last time I filmed, but I'm not going to show you those because they're just socks. They're just a pair of vanilla socks, or a couple pairs. I'm sure you know what vanilla socks look like. I don't think I need to go dig those out of the drawer, because a lot of them probably aren't clean. But anyways, so actually I forgot, in my mug I have some Lady Grey tea. It was actually my second choice. I wanted some rooibos tea, and my husband for Christmas bought me this amazing loose leaf rooibos tea. I don't know where he got it, but online somewhere. And I was all set to make myself a cup of tea, cup of rooibos. Excuse me, but we are out of tea filters. So I had to settle for something that was already in a tea bag because I could not, I could not find my little, my tea diffuser. I have a little manatee tea diffuser that sits on the edge of the cup. He's very cute, but I couldn't find it. And I just wasn't that dedicated to pull out my teapot and make a cup of tea, because I have a teapot with a tea diffuser in it. It has a little wire mesh basket that goes in. Anyway, so that's my tea and my finished object. So, my goodness, cat butts. That's my finished object, so I'm going to move on to my works in progress. So my first sweater whip is my Damejakka Loppa sweater, which is a pattern by Pinneguri. It is just this lovely colorwork yoke sweater. Well, it's a cardigan, and it'll be steeked. Sorry, the yarn is super tangled. So yeah, I'm knitting it out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft is their fingering weight, I believe. Brooklyn Tweed Loft. The main color I'm using for the body is their postcard colorway. The rest of the colors I'm not entirely sure of all of their names, but they are on my Ravelry project page, and all the links to all of my social media accounts and my Ravelry pages will be in the description box below this video. So yeah, this pattern is another really well written pattern. I'm enjoying it. I also really like this yoke. Looks really intricate, and it is, but you only use 2 colors per row, which is key, because if I have to carry 3 strands in a single row, it's all over. I just cannot make my fingers do that. So yeah, and then it's on the body and on the sleeves, it's got this cool little flea pattern. And yeah, I'm loving working on the sweater. It's been on hold for a while, because when I went to my local yarn store, I cannot talk today. When I went to my local yarn store to buy the yarn for this sweater, they only had 2 skeins of loft in the postcard colorway. So I had to track down another 2 skeins because I needed 4. And so I finally did that when Scott and I went to another yarn store in New Haven, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, and I finally got the second 2 skeins of postcard, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fade this original color into the new skeins, though they look pretty identical, so I don't think I'll have any issues with, the bottom of half of my sweater being a different color. But But anyways, that is my Damejakka Loppa sweater. I was hoping to have this done by the end of February, but that obviously did not happen. So that is my first work in progress. My second work in progress is a featherweight cardigan. So the featherweight cardigan is a cardigan pattern by Fettig on Ravelry. It's super popular. Pretty much everyone's made one because it's like the perfect cardigan pattern. It's just a super easy open front cardigan that you can throw on with anything. And I am knitting this out of Machete Shop on their original merino base, which is 100% superwash merino, 4-ply fingering weight, 438 yards to 100 grams, and the colorway is Magnolia. So yeah, I got this at a store called Looped Yarnworks in Washington, D.C. Scott and I went on vacation a couple weeks ago, and we, of course, stopped at a yarn store. I mean, we stopped there twice, actually, because there was only one in D.C. Can you believe it? Only one. I mean, they had a Michael's, and I think they might have also had Joann Fabrics, but just because a store sells yarn doesn't mean make it a yarn store. But anyways, so this is coming along. I knit the entire body really quickly. I think in like a week and a half, I had the entire body done. And this is a fingering weight sweater. And so I've knit this all on US size 3 because that's the needle size I got gauge on. I forget what the pattern called for, what needle size, but it was something, I don't know, I remember it being something kind of ridiculous. I thought, ridiculous is the wrong word, but it just, your gauge would have to be so tight. Like, I think it called for like a US 6, and I'm knitting these on a US size 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter, and I think a US 6 is a 4 millimeter. Pretty sure. So yeah, that's a pretty significant difference. And these are my Hihat Sharps interchangeables. I finally got a set of them, and I love them. They are so much better than my knitpicks needles. And I will talk more about them in stash acquisitions, but Hihat Sharps really are everything people say they are. So yeah, these are my Hihat Sharps, and I love them. Featherweight cardigan. I'm loving it so far, and I'm hoping to be done with it soon. I'd really like to knit 12 garments for myself this year, but we'll see if that actually happens. I've got one finished, and then I've got 2 halfway finished or more. So, and it's March, so we'll see if that happens. I mean, so I knit the entire body in a week and a half, and then this sleeve, I had done like an inch or 2, an inch and a half, and then on Monday night I picked this up again, and it's now Wednesday, and I've done all of that. So I imagine once I sit down and get going on this, finish up this sleeve will fly. I will probably have this done by the next time I podcast. I'd love to have it done, finish it this weekend, which I feel like I could definitely finish the sleeves this week. It's just a matter of the button band, because the button band goes around like the whole front, and it's like 3 or 4 inches wide. I think the pattern calls for. I'd have to double check. But it's pretty significant, and button bands are just, I struggle with button bands, guys, because they're just the worst. But anyways, at least I don't have to stop and put buttonholes, because that I really dislike. It's not like working button bands is even working buttonholes is even remotely hard. Like, it's not at all, but just when I get to ribbing, I kind of just want to power through it, and having to stop and measure and space them out, that just annoys me, and it makes knitting button bands just so annoying, particularly when you knit the wrong size sweater and your cardigan won't even close, which happened with my owl cardigan that I knit. I knit it in the wrong size. Not the wrong gauge, mind you. My gauge was spot on. I just picked the wrong size. So I have no one to blame but myself. Anyways. So that is my featherweight cardigan. I rambled quite a bit. My third work in progress is a sweater I am making my dad. And you're probably like, Myra, haven't you been working on that sweater since December? Yes. Yes, I have. And I've ripped it out twice, which is why it's still not done. But this time, I went with a raglan, and I am like 20 rows away from splitting off the sleeves and the body. So yeah, connecting it in the front. It's being like a 1/4 button band in the front. So yeah, this third time's the charm. This is knit out of Knitpicks Wool of the Andes in their Garnet Heather colorway. It is not the superwash version because I found the superwash version holds up in the washer as long as you don't put it in the dryer. And also as long as it's on like the gentle cycle and you're using cold water. But always wash a swatch first, even if your yarn is superwash, because every washing machine is a little bit different. So if yours agitates a little bit more, then putting a knitted garment in the wash is not going to be a good idea. So this is also being knit on my Hihat Sharp interchangeables. These are on a US size 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter needle. And yeah, so I have to say, I was knitting this on my Knitpicks interchangeables, and it was quite the slog. And when I got these in the mail Monday night, it just started to fly. Like, I don't know how much I had already knit, but not a lot, and it's just flown since then. So I'd really like to finish this by the end of the month, which means I probably need to start being a little bit monogamous and knit on this because the end of the month, I guess it is far enough away, but the end of the month always sort of sneaks up on me. So yeah, this is that sweater, and I said I only had 3 finished objects, but three works in progress. I wish I had 3 finished objects. I said I only had 3 works in progress, but I actually have 4. So my 4th work in progress is a crocheted baby blanket. It is purple. and it's a worsted weight yarn. I bought like a pound yarn ball. And yeah, I am using a J hook, I think. And yeah, so this is, I'm not sure what this stitch is called. I'm not even sure if I'm doing it right. I started this blanket years ago. I started this baby blanket so long ago that I have no idea who it was for, but I'm sure that kid's gotta be like 10. Forever. So I just decided, I just pulled it out the other night because I wanted a change of pace. I don't currently have any vanilla socks on the needle, so I just wanted something easy that I didn't really have to pay a whole lot of attention to. And that's this blanket. And I actually am really enjoying crocheting, or working on this blanket rather. I don't think I would ever like switch over to crocheting for other things. But yeah, this blanket has been very relaxing and a nice, easy whip. And yeah, and I'm sure by the time I finish it, someone will be having a baby. Who knows? If this will... I've been working on it for years, so who knows if it'll ever be finished. But yeah, so that's been enjoyable. The yarn is super squishy and soft. I have no idea. I'm assuming it's 100% acrylic because I remember buying it at Joann's in that like aisle of acrylic baby yarn. But don't know the brand, don't know the colorway name. It's purple. I bought it in a 1 pound skein. Pretty sure it's worsted weight. That's what by looking at it, that's what I would guess. So that is my crocheted blanket. Anyways, so that is all of my works in progress. So now I think we can move along into stash acquisitions, which I have quite a few. Mostly because my birthday was in between the last time I podcast and now. So I have a lot of birthday related stash acquisitions. So I think first I'll talk about the books. So I got 2 books. The first one is Charted Knitting Designs by Barbara G. Walker. It's a really great book. It's just got a bunch of different... Trying to find a page I can show you without giving away the patterns. That's not really possible. Anyways, it's just a book full of charts. It's got lace designs and cables and slip stitches and just all sorts of different textures charted in this book, and it's great. It's a really great resource. So I can't wait to put that to use. The second book, and my in-laws got me this for my birthday. The second book that I got, also from my in-laws, as a birthday present, is the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns. And so this book, it's put out by, it was edited by Ann Budd, and put out by Interweave, I believe, published it, yes. It's just a really great reference. It's all basic patterns for a bunch of different gauges. And so you just look up, they're in charts, so you just look up your gauge and the size you want, and you find out the number of stitches to cast on, and just very basic instructions. So yeah, this is very helpful for designing, particularly the schematics. Just for like the sweater, they have all of the measurements you would need to know. So yeah, that's helpful for designing. Though what I will say is that this book puts a lot of positive ease into patterns. Just for instance, so they're saying, so for the child sweater, they have sizes to fit a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And the finished chest circumference for the 8-year-old is 32 inches. And the finished chest circumference for the 10-year-old is 34 inches. Which, my bust is 33 inches, and I'm a grown woman. So, if you're making a sweater for an 8-year-old, a 32-inch finished chest circumference, that's going to be way too much ease for your average 8-year-old. So pay absolutely no attention to the age recommendations that they give, but it's a great, if you know that they put in far too much ease, then it's a great resource. Just pay no attention to the ages. And for adults, their adult small is a 36-inch finished bust circumference, which I typically wear an adult small, in clothing, and like store-bought clothing, and a 36-inch finished bust circumference, that would be 3 inches of ease. Like, that's a very, very cozy sweater. I wouldn't knit a sweater with that much ease for like everyday wear, probably. So yeah, just, it's a great resource. Just their idea of how big people are is completely skewed. So those are my 2 books, and I absolutely love them. And I have to say, the schematics are very good. As long as you know your average 8-year-old is not going to fit into a sweater with a 32-inch bust circumference, you're good. And I think it's just the age and the size recommendations are off. Like, obviously, there are plenty of people who fall into like a 36-inch chest circumference, and like those are obviously needed sizes. I just think their recommendations for who's going to fit those sizes is wrong. So those are my 2 books that I got for my birthday, and I love them both. They are very handy references. So my next stash acquisition is some yarn. This is Quince and Cole Ark, which is 100% American wool, and the colorway is Twig. So yeah, I have 8 skeins of this. It's a worsted weight yarn, and it's so soft and squishy. I can't wait to knit with it. I'm not sure if it's going to be a sweater or a winter honey shawl by Andrea Mowry, because I love that shawl and I really want to knit it, but I'm just not sure if this is what that's going to be, or if it's going to be a sweater. We'll see. So that is one yarn acquisition. And this was kind of a birthday present. My grandmother gave me some money for my birthday. That's what I bought this with. So, my next, dropped the label. My next yarn stash acquisition, is this lovely skein of Tuscan Knits. Here's the label. I don't have it still in its skein form because I was going to cast this on. Actually, I did cast this on, and in the process somehow bent my one sock needle, my one set of circular needles that I use for socks. And so I ripped it out. And so this is Tuscan Knits in her trapeze base, which is 75% non-superwash American wool and 25% nylon. It's 430 yards to 100 grams, and the colorway is Kaluna. And this was a collaboration between Tuscan Knits yarn and Becky Sorensen. She's Soprano Knits on Instagram. I can't remember what her podcast name is. I think it's... I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just this lovely yarn. So Becky designed a sock pattern called the Kaluna socks. And it's a lovely sock pattern. It's not really my style or something I would wear, though it's a beautiful pattern knit up. I would just never wear them because I'm very particular about my hand knitted socks. But this yarn was so beautiful. I could not pass it up. So I bought the sock kit. Anyway, it is a heavyweight fingering, so I'm not sure that I'm going to use this for socks. I originally had cast on a pair of socks with it, but I was just thinking that they'll be too loose and too big if I knit socks out of it, just because it's such a plump yarn. It's pretty much a sport weight. I would call this a sport weight, but that's just me. So it might end up being a hat or mittens. I don't know. But yeah, it's just lovely. It's a lovely color. So that is my second yarn stash acquisition. And then my third stash acquisition for yarn is just more Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the postcard colorway. And Brooklyn Tweed Loft is 100% American wool as well, but it is definitely different than the Quince and Cole Ark. It's not as soft, or the Tuscan Knits trapeze base. This is definitely a little bit toothier, which is why I'm using it for a colorwork sweater. And Brooklyn Tweed is so light. Brooklyn Tweed is so light and lofty, and it's so, the way it knits up is so nice. And it does soften quite a bit as you're working with it and then once you wash it. But, yeah. So that's the third yarn stash acquisition, which doesn't really count because I had already bought most of the yarn from my Damejakka Loppa, but I ran out, so I need more. There's more. So I have 2 new needle sets. The first is my Hihat Sharps interchangeable needle set, which I am in love with this needle set. As you can see, there's several sets missing because I'm using them currently. So they are just so pointy and slick and lovely. This is the 4-inch set because I wanted to be able to, sorry if you can hear the cat. She's got a scratch toy that she's clawing at. I bought the 4-inch needle set because I wanted to be able to make 16-inch circulars, and you can't with the 5-inch set. But I do have one set of 5-inch needles that I had bought just on their own with a cord to try out the Hihat Sharps. And they're amazing. I think eventually I'd like to, I got the small set, so it's size 2 through size 8. Eventually I would like to get the large set. I don't know if I will buy it right out, or if I will just buy the sizes as I need them, because it goes size 9 to like 15. And I can count on one hand the number of times I've used or looked at a pattern that was going to use a needle size higher than 9. I'm pretty sure I've never really needed to knit something on a needle size larger than a size 9. So I might just get the size 9s, and you can see there's extra pockets for additional needles in here, and I might just throw them in here with a couple large cables and call it a day. But yeah, I absolutely love this needle set, and the case is just wonderful. The cords are nice and flexible. They're not kinky. I had several really big complaints about my knitpicks interchangeable set, but one of them was the cords were just so stiff. They were not fun to knit with. So my second set of needles is also a Hiya needle Hiya Sharps, but these are their fixed sock needles, and as you can see, one set of sock needles is missing because I have a sock design on the go right now, which I'm not going to show you, but yeah. So these are my fixed Hiya Sharps. I know I have another set of fixed Hiya Sharps. They're 16-inch. I think they're size 3 or 4. So they'll probably go in here when I rescue them from the unfinished project that they're currently on. So yeah. And I have to say, Hiya's needle cases are excellent. They're not those cheap, zippered or snap cases that I've seen on a lot of interchangeable sets. So yeah, so that's all of my knitting stash acquisitions. The only other stash acquisition I have is some fabric that I bought from fabric.com. It's Twirl, I think. Yeah, it's Twirl. It's just a charcoal color Twirl. It's going to be a zinnia skirt from Colette Patterns. As soon as I get a chance to print out all 40 pages and piece it together. I hate piecing together PDF patterns. It's just the worst. But I'm too impatient to wait for the pattern to get here and too cheap to pay for shipping. Okay, so that is all for stash acquisitions. So now we can talk a little bit about dream knitting, because there are several things that I want to knit. So the first is a sweater that I'm thinking of for me, and that is, I want like a loose pullover with like 3 to 5 inches of ease, not 5 inches probably more like 3 inches. I have a very narrow frame, so I sort of get lost in clothing that has a lot of ease to it, a lot of positive ease to it. It's just not flattering. So I really want to put together a pattern for just a loose fitting pullover, probably something with a split hem, because I do like to have more coverage in the back. So yeah, we'll see. I also want it to be like a fairly loose, not loose, but either worsted weight, maybe bulky yarn, not super bulky or super chunky or anything like that, but maybe a bulkier weight yarn, just because I wanted to knit up really quickly, partially, and I also just wanted to be super cozy. So yeah, it's definitely something that's lacking in my wardrobe, because I have one sweater that I knit that's like a good pullover. I can dress it up, I can dress it down, so I can throw it on around the house, or I can wear it to work with a collared shirt underneath. It's actually a great pullover, but it's not always what I want to wear around the house. And I also don't want to be wearing that all the time, particularly around the house, because I don't want to get it dirty. So yeah, I definitely have realized that there's a sort of a gap in my wardrobe in that respect. I've been, over the past year or two, been going through, really more like the past year and a half, actually. I've been going through my wardrobe, and really paring it down and getting rid of, well, donating most things. Things that I don't wear, or that I only wear when everything else is dirty, because they were taking up space in my closet and in my dresser, and I don't have a whole lot of clothing storage space, so I really wanted everything that was in there to be things that I loved and things that I wore all the time. Of course, that's still not the case, but one of the things I really was super harsh with was sweatshirts, because I had probably 24 sweatshirts. Okay, it wasn't quite that extreme. I probably had 12 sweatshirts. And no one needs 12 sweatshirts unless that's all you wear. Then, of course, by all means, if all you ever wear is sweatshirts, I still don't think you need 12. Because you can wear sweatshirts several days before they need to be washed. Anyways, not the point. But I was really harsh with sweatshirts, and I got rid of a ton of them. Pretty much all but, like, one. And that one has really started to wear out. It's really baggy now. It's just sort of lost its shape. It's not even that warm. So I don't really like to wear it around the house. It just doesn't really, I don't know. But I had all these sweatshirts, and I wasn't wearing them. And so I got rid of all but, I think, 2. I think I was cleaning the other day under my bed, and I found a bin of winter clothing, which has been under there since we moved in, so obviously I don't need it, and I need to get rid of that stuff. But there was a sweatshirt in there, which, while I haven't gone looking for it, doesn't mean I haven't needed it, because I didn't know it was there, and I have been missing sweatshirts. And I've been wearing my husband's sweatshirts and sweaters, which brings me to the next thing that I want to knit. Is a new pullover for my husband. So I currently have one pullover sort of in progress for my husband. I need to finish ripping it out because I ripped out half of it, and then I decided that no, the rest of it needs to go, and I need to go up a whole needle size, and that's just the way it's going to be. And that is out of Malabrigo Rios. And it is merino, I think. It's super soft regardless, so that's in progress for him. So once I finish up my dad's pullover, I can pull that out, buy the needle they need, pull that out, and finish that up. Because the sweater that he currently has, he has 2 sweaters that I've made him. One's a cardigan that's all over cables. He loves that. It's definitely not a next to skin sweater, but it's okay because it's a cardigan. The other sweater that he has that I made him is this top-down raglan that I made. It was the second sweater that I knit, and while it was remarkably better than the first sweater that I knit, which is, I lovingly refer to as the ugly desk sweater, because I keep it in my desk at work, I was wearing my husband's sweater that I knit for him, and it's kind of terrible, actually. He's worn it and loved it for a year or more. I can't remember when I knit it, but he's worn it for a while. But it's itchy, and it was before I learned about like neck shaping, so the neck line in the front is just as high as the neckline in the back, so it kind of chokes you. So I think my second dream knit would be another sweater for him, just a plain pullover, like the one he already has, that's a little more comfortable to wear. Because that one, the one he has, is not. So yeah, that's, I think, the second thing that I want to knit. I'm trying to think if I have any more dream knitting other than The Winter Honey by Andrea Mowry, because I love that shawl. And it would be nice. I should start it now so that it's done before winter 2019 gets here, because I'm sure I won't finish it before this winter is over. So anyway, I think that's all I have for dream knitting. Moving along into what I've been reading, because I am the Knitting Bookworm. I'm currently reading a book called Prisoners of Geography. It's a book about geopolitics and how a country's geographical surroundings and where they are on the map, and whether or not there's mountains or rivers and natural boundaries like those or not affects their political relations with the rest of the world. It's very interesting, or at least it's very interesting to someone who studied political science in college. And just sort of, it's the first thing I've read since I graduated that is in any way related to the field I studied. So that was cool. And I was like, yeah, your political science degree might be useless, but you really did love it. So, and this book is just a reminder of that. So yeah, it's definitely a basic introduction to geopolitics, but it's well written, and it's definitely, I feel like, an accessible read to someone who hasn't studied political science. So yeah, if that's the sort of thing that interests you, I definitely recommend it. I cannot remember the author's name. He's a journalist, though. That's not helpful because there's a lot of those. But I will put all of the information on that book in the description box below. So I feel like I'm talking really fast now. Deep breaths. Anyways, I guess we can move on into my ramble segment, which, despite being absent from YouTube for a month, I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet because I've been recording for over an hour now, and my poor husband is in our bedroom reading a book because my microphone will pick up him typing at his computer, among other things. I'm currently wondering if it's picking up our super loud upstairs neighbor. So yeah, anyways, I just want to finish up my ramble segment pretty quickly and get on to making dinner. So my ramble segment, if you care to stick around, is the segment of my podcast where I talk about what's been going on in my life and just random things, whatever I want to, basically. And I call it my ramble segment, which it's not very well named because having a ramble segment implies that you haven't rambled for the past hour, which is not true. That is not true at all. So, moving along. So, February was an eventful month. I got the flu, which was rough, but I got off easy. Like, I was not deathly ill or anything. I mean, I got type B influenza, which is not typically as bad as type A. Type H1N1 is a type A influenza. And of course that was the big scary one they were talking about several years ago. Now they're probably up to like H17 or whatever. I don't know. But anyways, that is influenza type A, which I did not have. I had influenza type B, which is much milder, or at least it was for me. Of course, obviously, if you're not a healthy adult, influenza type B can still be pretty serious. But I was out for a couple days. I actually took 2 days off of work, which is unheard of. Taking 2 sick days in a row. That's just craziness. It took me like a week and a half of working late to catch up after doing that. But I'm all caught up now and healthy again. Scott and I went to DC President's Day weekend, which I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I believe. We had a really good time. We had dinner with my aunt and uncle, who live in the area, and I don't see them very often. So yeah, it was nice to get away, just the two of us, because we haven't really had a vacation, just us, at all since our honeymoon, which seems like forever ago. When you work full-time and the only time you travel is to go see your parents or your in-laws, which, love seeing them, but definitely a very different sort of trip. And what else have I been doing? Done several. I've done a few day hikes. My friend Elizabeth and I really like to hike. We've been section hiking the AT together. We just did a short section. We did an out and back, so I think we did about 8.5 miles, but it was 4.25 miles of trail that we did. So yeah, it's been a busy month. I've been working a lot, so has Scott. But Easter's coming up, and I thought spring was on the horizon, but we had a blizzard today, so not so much. But yeah, I am looking forward to the warm weather. Granted, I've been looking forward to the warm weather since September, but it's in sight now, I feel like, or almost in sight. Anyway, so I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, thank you for checking out my podcast. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for spending time with me week after week. And yeah, so you can find me across the internet as Myrabethknits. And